what does it mean for kind of like the term Iranian? Because usually I'm always sold on the concept of Italian by a lot of Italians. And I'm kind of like the other Italian that's largely, believe it or not, British and Irish on 23andMe. Well, I can tell you about my haplogroup, RE159. And usually the languages I speak don't really revolve around Italian. It's usually either Farsi or even Mandarin. There's a little known language called Sinali. And it comes in many different forms like Russian, Kazakh, Uzbek, Turkmen, Azerbaijani, Sinali. Even something like Albanian, Croatian, Serbian. And these are kind of different influxes of flexations of like something like this. Something like that. It spells like Anthony Paul Robinson and kind of like my messed up writing. And I have pretty much my own esoteric way of kind of like writing different languages. And you usually kind of like have to write, not make up your mind, but actually like kind of think through. Well, it's basically a process of meditation. Like, what is my name? Anthony Robinson. Well, I'm an Ailey, basically. Well, that's why I call myself Ailey Robinson. It's kind of like my other way of thinking that's very similar to Anthony Robinson, which sounds to me a lot more than Antonio whatsoever. And whenever I speak to someone that kind of wants to be Italian, you know, and it goes up in there as to whether or not you're that, they sometimes even call me Tony or Antonio, and I get very easily offended by that, very heavily. Because I basically know myself as Anthony Robinson. I had a birth certificate called Al Abundant Georgianine that happens to be proven to be Jason Reza Georgianine. Well, he is not really a guy of any race that came from any parents whatsoever. Was just appeared out of nowhere. Literally appeared out of nowhere, much like Alice Cooper. Like how he come up with Alice Cooper, he wanted individually. He couldn't stand the name like of Vincent Vernier. Couldn't really stand himself. Well, there's a thing called cop-out artist. Do you really want to align with your family, or do you just want to fight and bitch and complain? Well, that's basically the real thing. Like, for me to know about Iranian culture, and I've studied Iranian culture, I've been around Iranians, it's not something I can wrap myself around. When I study something like Aryan, on the other hand, I basically can tell you about kind of like the main weapons that are similar to Chinese weapons. For instance, the clothes that are similar to Chinese clothes. And I can basically tell you this, I grow in my hair real quick, very heavily, especially when I was a lot younger. When I got older, I mean, this is basically technically dead hair. Well, it just means that it probably needs to be cut. But anyways, Finn.